There are very few places left where you can get away from the hustle and bustle of traffic and technology.
That's a nice one.
Where the seafood is fresh and the natural wonders of the coastal plains surround you. Hyde County, North Carolina is one such place. But with great beauty comes great challenge. Water is the essential ingredient in what makes this region special, as well as vulnerable.
Okay, all right. This is the Swan Quarter, West Quarter Special Service Districts. There are two districts, but they are encompassed by a continuous dike.
From conception to completion, construction of the 17.7-mile Swan Quarter Dike took nearly a half-century. Hyde County is one of the most remote and sparsely populated locations in the country. Mitigation of potential flood disasters here is expensive. Not as costly, however, as the damage caused by floods that occur in the absence of preventive measures. In 2003, Hurricane Isabel decimated the area before the Swan Quarter Dike was completed.
Isabel, particularly here in Swan Quarter, was the event by which everything else is judged.
Plenty of hurricanes have made Hyde County history. But in this flood-threatened region of coveted farmland, damage has never been confined to just storms with famous names. Lessons have been learned from the experiences and solutions that have resulted here.
How often would you say it floods?
The last 2 years have been exceptionally wet, and like you said, it doesn't take a named storm event. We normally average around 47 to 49 inches of rainfall. This year we're very close to 80 inches. Last year was exceptionally wet as well.
In October of 2015, roads in Hyde County were flooded from the wind and heavy rain, but the dike minimized problems inside the community of Swan Quarter. Elevated homes, which we will detail shortly, were also above the floodwaters. Outside of town, the dike mitigates another threat from the weather: saltwater intrusion. If water from the Pamlico Sound reaches this farmland, the damage is magnified. Fertility of the soil is affected for years after water subsides.
We're standing on top of a tide gate. Can you tell me how that works?
Yep. This tide gate is the West Canal structure. Several thousand acres of farmland flow through this structure. So how it works, it acts as a check valve when you have excessive rainfall or extra rainfall inside the dike. The tide gate opens up and allows the water to run out. If you had a tidal surge or a high tide event come in, those gates will close automatically and prevent inundation upstream.
Sometimes dikes and tide gates are not enough to keep floodwaters from reaching homes. To ensure flood damages will be covered, homeowners and renters should purchase flood insurance and review coverage once a year. Homeowners and business owners can also take action to reduce flood damage by elevating finished areas. Chris Cahoon Noble, the Hyde County Planning and Economic Development Director, thought her house was safe from rising waters until she met Isabel in 2003.
When it first came in, we were actually in the house, and I was cooking pork chops, and I had a load of clothes in the washing machine, and all of a sudden it came in with just fury. And the yard started filling up with water, and the scariest part of it just wasn't water, it was moving water. But we still never really expected it to come in the house. About 30 minutes into that scenario, I realized it was dripping from the ceilings. And we went upstairs, and there was a huge piece of the roof missing. So we got in the vehicle, which was parked on the road, which was just before flooding out, and started driving down the road. And we drove across the field to my mom's house. And you can actually see Mama's house from right here where those grain bins are. We drove down the road and got to her house, which had never flooded. Well, we got over there at her house, and within a couple of minutes of getting into her house, it was so surreal. The water came into the yard and it just said bloosh. and all the cars that were parked out there, they started banging into each other and car alarms were going off.
When the water receded, Chris and many others in the area were faced with decisions. Some chose to move away. But for Chris, whose family had lived here for generations, moving away was not an option. She had federal flood insurance and used increased cost of compliance coverage to help her move up. Way up. She raised her home by several feet of freeboard, a nautical term also used in construction to describe elevating the lowest floor of a structure additional feet above the base flood elevation, as noted on the flood insurance rate map for the particular property. For Chris, that action dramatically reduced her flood insurance premiums, and more importantly, her stress.
It changes you forever after you go through something like that. If you have the opportunity to have your home elevated above base flood elevation, it's something you have to do for the preservation of your house and the preservation of your own mental well-being. For everything that we went through, the peace of mind that it won't happen again, I think, is worth it.
People who live here are very resilient people. They've had to adapt over time. We're dealing with issues here very few other places are even aware of, but this being home, there's no other place like this, and that's exactly why we're here. That's why we live here. That's why we love to live here.
Hyde County leaders work with varied partners, including state and federal agencies, and North Carolina Sea Grant, to look at community planning to reduce flooding. Residents have found that their own actions also have multiple benefits. The first step to protecting a home is purchasing flood insurance. Go to floodsmart.gov. There, enter an address to view flood maps and see a list of agents who can help with policies for property owners and renters. Or you can contact any licensed insurance agent in your area to ask about flood insurance. For help elevating a home and other flood mitigation measures, check your town, city, or county's website, or call them for help. In Hyde County, residents can view paper flood maps. Just call Building Inspections at 252-926-4372. For help elevating your Hyde County home, call Planning and Economic Development at 252-926-4474. The staff will help you fill out the application.